Welcome to the Cover 4 podcast. I'm Nolan Kangas alongside Bradshaw Furlong and Jeff Wall. No Luca today. He is on the IR, but hopefully he is back soon, healthy and safe. Guys, let's dive right in. Obviously, news earlier this week, Jadeveon Clowney, the former number 1 overall pick, he's on another new team. He gets traded to Seattle, signs a 1-year deal with Tennessee. That was a disaster. And now signs another 1-year deal, this time heading to the Cleveland Browns. 1 year, $8 million. Pairs with Myles Garrett on that D-line. Obviously, they added a couple more pieces. I believe Tack McKinley, your former Falcon there, Bradshaw, he's going to Cleveland as well. Regardless, Cleveland's made a ton of great moves in this offseason. I know we talked about our winners and losers a couple episodes back. They're clear winners in my eyes. John Johnson, everyone loved that move. Clowney, I don't think this move hurts at all. You're not giving him a ton of money. It's a low base salary. And you've seen what he can do when he has another really good edge rusher, on that D-line. We saw what he did when he had J.J. Watt helping him out, and he produced big numbers. Those were some of his best years yet, obviously, in Houston. We'll see if he can do more of the same in Cleveland. But my question to you guys, and I'll go to Bradshaw first. First of all, thoughts on this signing, but also, has Cleveland surpassed Buffalo as the team that is closest to taking down KC in the AFC?
I'll start with the first one. The second question there. No, I believe Buffalo would still be the team to beat. I just don't think we've seen enough from Cleveland to like they had a great season last year, but I think I want to see them do it again. I mean, you can say the same thing about Buffalo. They had this fantastic season. Want to see them do it again, but I think there's more stability in what Buffalo has. I believe in Josh Allen. I believe in that offense a little bit more than what I believe in with the Browns. I believe in the Browns defense more than the Bills defense a little bit, but we've seen the Bills defense be elite in the past, and we've seen them be really good in the past. So I think you can expect them to, get back up and be better than what they were last season. In terms of Clowney, I pretty much agree. There's not much risk there. I mean, I think it kind of forced them to let go of Sheldon Richardson. That they released him today. But it just matched. It's basically the same salaries going in and out. Like, I think Sheldon Richardson had $12 million, and I believe Jadeveon Clowney is the same thing coming in. So I think it's gonna be a lot of pressure off of Clowney's shoulders, obviously having Myles Garrett there. So I think it'll be a nice fit. He's not going to be asked to be like the primary pass rusher. He's not going to be asked to do all the heavy lifting on that D line. There's a lot of guys there that can kind of take the pressure off and have him not be the sole focus. So I like it as for both. I like it for Jadeveon Clowney. I like it for the Browns.
All right. Now, Jeff, what about you?
I don't know. I'm a bit perplexed on it. I've never really been super high on Jadeveon Clowney. He just hasn't really lived up to his potential, right? I mean, obviously had really high potential, right, that everybody was talking about and lauding. But I think overall he's been, I don't want to say a disappointment, but I just don't think he's really been that elite guy. Like, I think he's a solid guy to pair with a guy like Myles Garrett, but I don't think he's going to have a tremendous impact on the team. But hey, like at the very least, Cleveland's kind of solves a problem, doesn't force them to go to an edge rusher in this draft if they're not sure about those guys. And maybe that kind of signals that, maybe they weren't very sure about them, or at least at that spot. I think overall, I mean, it's a solid move. I think, it's a guy that you can kind of easily move on from. It's a guy that can definitely help your defense in the run game. I just don't know about the passing game. I don't think he's going to be an elite pass rusher, but overall, just an okay signing. It's okay.
Now, kind of going back to what I mentioned before, do you think they've surpassed Buffalo, or do you still think Buffalo's a notch above them?
I definitely still think Buffalo's a notch above them, and just simply because I have no idea what Baker Mayfield is. And until we know that, I don't think you can really expect them to compete with the Buffalo. If Baker takes, I'm not going to say like a Josh Allen leap, obviously that's insane, but like just a point to being like a good NFL quarterback, I would say yes, because I do think Kevin Stefanski and that offense and the defense, I think, is good enough now, especially with all the additions made generally, that they bridge that gap, in my opinion. Just because I think the Bills, aside from Allen and Diggs and a few defensive pieces, I don't think that they're that far ahead of them.
I don't know. To me, I think I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, Kansas City is the top in that conference. We all know that. I might go Cleveland ahead of them now. And obviously we mentioned the John Johnson signing, Troy Hill signing. Their weakness was the secondary, right? They've answered to that. And Grant Delpit's he was their 2nd round pick, I believe, last year. Really talented player when he was over at LSU. I think he's coming off a torn Achilles, so let's hope he's 100% healthy. I don't know. I think that offense, we know they can run the ball. Nick Chubb's one of the best running backs in football. Their offensive line's one of the best offensive lines in football. If we get the Baker Mayfield that we had in the final 8 weeks and a little bit in the postseason, I'm putting them ahead of Buffalo. And I know how great Buffalo was. They had another weapon in Emmanuel Sanders. We know that they're probably going to have to go maybe an edge rusher or a guard if they can grab one. That might be a little bit too late to grab Elijah Vera Tucker where they're slated there in the draft. But maybe I'm wrong. I'll be the odd one out and say I think Cleveland right now, if I'm picking today and putting my money down, it's going to be Kansas City and Cleveland in that AFC Championship game. And I think we saw last year too, and I know the years have changed, players have changed, but which team was the most competitive against well, obviously we know Tampa Bay ends up winning the Super Bowl, but throughout those playoffs, Cleveland gave Kansas City the biggest run for their money, right? But it was a blowout against Buffalo. And I think, you get another year of Stefanski. Baker Mayfield hopefully he's matured a little bit. If he can get on the same page as Odell Beckham Jr., because that's always been the question mark, is it's always trying to force feed Odell, but when Odell isn't playing, he knows just to go through his reads, who's open, let's find it, and let's move on. So let's hope that they can all get it together now. But Jadeveon Clowney, you're right, decent signing. He is really good in the run game, and I don't think that gets said enough, but again, not that natural pass rusher we always envisioned. And that's going to move on to sort of another topic here. Someone who's not the natural pass rusher for me, and I'll be the one to start it, is we're talking about players we aren't as high on in this draft. He's been falling, and he's fallen for me as well. Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. I don't see it anymore. And we looked at mock drafts way earlier in the year. He's there in the top 10. He's top 5. I remember Bradshaw. We were talking way earlier. Oh, they're going to grab an edge rusher. It's going to be Kwity Paye or Rousseau. Don't see that. I don't see him going in the first round now. And I think the thing that hurt him a lot, and I'm not saying, opting out of COVID was a bad thing, because we saw what he put together in that red shirt season, right? 15 and a half sacks. He was electric. I look back at some of the, the numbers and kind of not the best sacks. I know it's such a weird thing to say. You want to see your edge rusher smoke the tackle off the line, and you beat NFL talent off the line, good moves, and get to the quarterback quick. You don't see that a lot. You don't see it against good competition. I think it was the first 4 sacks, or first 4 of the 5 sacks in the season. Sacks, the Virginia quarterback took 6 seconds to get there, right? And it was just a lost play. If someone else actually got to the quarterback first, and the quarterback runs into Rousseau. Next one, Florida State's got a dog crap offensive line. And the left guard tries to cut block him, and Rousseau just steps around him. Sack. Next one, he beats the Central Michigan right guard. So that's probably your worst blocking position on that offensive line. It's Central Michigan against Miami. He's going to beat him. And the next one I had, it was against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech put a tight end against him. Beats him, gets a sack. So I think there's some questions there. A lot of the time, we have him as an edge rusher. He plays a lot more inside, and that's where he's getting his wins, against guards, centers. When it's at the next level, he's going to be expected to go against tackles, NFL caliber tackles, who he hasn't faced at all during his college days. Another thing, we talked about his pro day. He wasn't as great. And the one thing that sticks out, and you always look at this for edge rushers, is the 3-cone. And his was bad, 7.5, right? I think what it's supposed to be fine is if you're sub 7, that is regarded as good. If you're sub 6'7", that's like Von Miller, that's elite. The questions are, Kwity Paye supposedly ran a 6'3", which is absurd. But if Rousseau, who's supposed to be that, edge rusher in that top 5, is running a full second slower than that, for a guy who's supposed to be a 4.5 speed with a great bend, you're not getting that. So for me, I'm falling on him. I'm not shocked if he goes to the second round. What would be great, I know I'm running along here, is if it's at the tail end of the first round and a team like Tampa Bay picks him up, that is the best situation for him, because right, there's already guys playing in front of him. He can just rotate in. He doesn't have to be asked to be, you're our guy moving forward. We need you to go collect those sacks. They've already got Shaq Barrett, JPP, right? Vita Vea. So he can just sub in occasionally, rotate through, and get the tackles when they're already, man, I've been dealing with Shaq Barrett the whole time. Here comes this 6'7" freak who has potential. We just haven't seen it yet. So if he goes to a team, maybe at the beginning of the second round, like the Jets, relying on him to be their number 1 edge, don't like that. But if he ends up going to a team later in that first round, I think that could be better or more beneficial for him. Right now, I'm not as high on him, and he's falling in my eyes. I know I ran on a long tangent there, but Jeff, what do you have, man?
I could go on a couple people. I mean, I've obviously talked about Micah Parsons, so for the viewers, I won't talk about that. I mean, and again, I don't necessarily think Micah Parsons is a bad player. I just think the value where people were kind of talking about him is a bit insane to me. One guy I definitely know I'm going to get hate on for is Jaylen Waddle. You guys know I've been kind of on it because here's my issue with it. People keep saying, oh, he's a burner, he's a burner, he's a burner. I mean, like, he's kind of a fast receiver, and people have been comping him to Tyreek Hill, and obviously we don't know the comp, like exactly what you're comping to until someone actually says it, right? But like for me, like the way I would do it is always just like what their style is, not what their physicality is, because no one has the same attributes, so on and so forth. For me, Jaylen Waddle is not a burner. Jaylen Waddle is a very good route runner. I actually do agree with that. But to me, like, if you think you're getting this guy with like Henry Ruggs speed because he raced him one time in like not on the football field, just randomly in a gym one time. Yeah, I don't think you're getting that at all. I think that's pretty clear to see. I actually don't think him and Devontae Smith are actually that far apart in terms of speed. Like just, I'm talking like straight line, if they're running from one end of the field to the other, who's going to win the race? I mean, Jaylen Waddle might win, but I don't think he's going to smoke anybody because even in college, you'll still see guys in the screen that are still on him, right? And this is in the SEC where guys are closer to that NFL caliber level. And then, like, I don't know, I just don't really see all that. And not only that, but he's been injured a lot, man. Also, too, here's the last one. There's a reason why Devontae Smith and all those other guys were picked over him, because he wasn't as good. It wasn't like Nick Saban's not going out here giving turns to people. He puts the best guy on the field. Jaylen Waddle was like the fourth best guy. And that's not to say he's going to be bad, but the reality is there's a reason why he put him back there. It's because he's not as good as those guys. The injury is definitely a concern. It's funny that like everybody always talks about size in the NFL, and then his size isn't being talked about either because he's not a particularly big wide receiver. I mean, I don't know. I think he's got a good little bit of burst. I'll give him that 100%. But to me, like, I honestly don't know that I would drop him in the top 15. I honestly think I pick Bateman over him. I might even pick Elijah Moore over him. I think there's tons of guys to me that have equal to or more talent than him, quite honestly. I mean, I know Elijah Moore's only played in the slot for the most part, but with his skill set, I think he can play outside. So, yeah. Jaylen Waddle, I know a lot of people are going to kill me for that, but I don't give a damn. I'm just not high on him at all.
We've talked about this for a while. We remember going back and forth on social, kind of just saying, and that's fine if you're not crazy high on him. What I will counter is, and I'm fine if you want to put Bateman over him, because Bateman off the line is disgustingly good, and that is NFL ready. Him off the line, his route running, he's that clean, he's that talented. Whereas Waddle, you mentioned the other receivers at Alabama. You look at the first 5 games of this season before he got injured, I believe he led the team in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. They were feeding him the ball like they fed Devonta Smith the ball. Smith is the better route runner. That is clear. Waddle, and he's still fast. We know that. And Waddle is going to be a little bit quicker than him. But I think this system at Alabama helps players like that where, hey, you can get open and you can run quick. Go nuts, right? So, but as a pure NFL receiver, I think it's going to depend on the team that he lands with. If he goes to a New York, at 11, I'm fine with that because you already have a Kenny Galladay who's going to be your 50-50 number one guy. Sterling Sharp, if he's still there, or not Sterling Sharp. Sterling Shepard. If he's there in the slot, that's fine. I still think you have that burner on the outside who is Waddle. I'm fine with that, but I don't know. I think we'll have to wait and see the team situation as well, because I think when you comp him to a player like Tyreek Hill, that's not doing him justice, right? Tyreek Hill's a freak. If you comp him to a guy like Henry Ruggs, I think that's a little bit more fair because Henry Ruggs is this burner who the Raiders expected him to be their number one guy, and that's really tough to do with just a pure speed player, whereas I do think Waddle has a little bit more strength and route running ability than Ruggs. He's just not as quick as him. Like if you look at Waddle, in high school, I believe he played safety too, and put licks on kids, right? He blew some kids up. He's that aggressiveness type of receiver, whereas we don't see that from maybe a Henry Ruggs. So that is a player that is going to be a big question mark. And you've already said it, Jeff. You're not going to be surprised if people come at you saying, "Oh, what about Waddle?" I am fine if you want to put Bateman over him for sure. But Bradshaw, what about you? Who's a player that's not really sticking out in your mind?
Jeff kind of stole mine. I was going to go with Jaylen Waddle as well, but he was a little more aggressive with it. I was not going to say like Elijah Moore ahead of him and all that, but I'll revert to my second one because Jeff decided to steal mine away in the heat of the night. This is why we got to talk about these things, Jeff. Come on. I can't have this happen. Jason Owe, the defensive lineman from Penn State. I know I had him third, but then I started watching him a little bit more after he put that out, and I just I know he's a monster athletically. Like he might be the most athletic guy out of all the all the defensive end prospects, all the edge prospects, and that's saying a lot considering who Kwity Paye is. But I also like to see, I know we talk about, like, I know we had this discussion before, but like athleticism and like the traits versus the actual production in the film. And the athleticism is there. And I know Owe only started playing football in like defensive end in 2016. He hasn't been playing it very long, but no sacks in 7 games this year. And like the year you're supposed to like really pop and, trying to up your draft stock. It's really scary for me. And I know like he's not, I think he can be a good productive NFL edge rusher in the future. I think those traits will translate eventually. But if we're talking in the context of like having a guy that maybe isn't ready right away and maybe needs a couple years, or maybe like will get drafted ahead of where I think he should get drafted to, or be put in a position where I don't think he'll succeed, I think that'll be Jason Owe. I think in terms of like athleticism and pure talent, I think that's there for him. I just think he hasn't produced and he hasn't been playing long enough where if you take him in the top 15, God forbid, if you take him in the top 15, you're going to be asking him to do a lot of things that he's not ready to do right now at an NFL caliber level. So for me, it's Jason Owe, because I just don't think if he gets drafted too high and someone's expecting to be like your primary pass rusher right away, a team's going to be very disappointed in that.
That was someone who I was thinking about putting as well. And I think this edge class has a lot of that where, yes, there is, talent all over, but you're not really sure. And you're not sure where these guys are going to fall. When we did our mock draft, I think who was the first guy off the board? I think it was Paye at like 26, right? Mm-hmm. Like we're really unsure about this class, but Owe was someone I was really considering because of the 0 sack total. You want to see, big numbers for, guys heading into potentially the first round of the draft. Again, like I mentioned with Rousseau, like Waddle, it's got to depend on the team situation as well. Because for me, I do like Paye better, but if he goes to the right situation like Minnesota, who's great at developing edge talent, Danielle Hunter, a long guy, freaky athlete, has the burst, has the bend, and ends up being, top 7 edge rusher in the NFL, right? If he goes to a team like that, great. But like I mentioned with Rousseau, if you're relying on him to be that number 1, I don't think he's going to be that right away. And what scares me is these guys who haven't played football for a long time, like Ziggy Ansah, right? Like you're just so raw. And yes, you're kind of that freaky athletic ability, but if you don't know the game right away and don't understand it that quickly, and you're just, a bully, like obviously Ansah was at BYU where you're, facing little to no talent at all. There's going to be question marks. That is for sure. There's going to be question marks for sure with the number 4 pick in the draft. Bradshaw, Atlanta Falcons. What are they going to do? We got a couple of mock trades for fun. Run the show, buddy.
All right. So I would think we mentioned it during the mock draft. We talked about it kind of since then that I'm very unsure of what I want the Falcons to do. There's 3 clear scenarios. You take quarterback, you take a non-quarterback, or you take the trade down option. And we went through some of the scenarios in the mock draft that if they take a quarterback could be either Trey Lance or Justin Fields, depending on how dumb the San Francisco 49ers are. They could have the choice of both if they really wanted to. But that also means there could be a team that wants to trade up for it. So I asked the guys, because I hate making mock trades myself. So I wanted them to come to me as if I am Terry Fontenot. And I mean, I basically am Terry Fontenot at this point. But I got my Falcons jersey on. I want to hear the offers. I'll start with Lucas because Lucas not here. He gave me his offer beforehand. So his offer, he was the New England Patriots in this scenario. He decided to throw at me for the number 4 pick in the draft, number 15 overall, a first next year, a third this year, and Stephon Gilmore, the star cornerback from the New England Patriots. I'm not sure how that would quite work financially for the Falcons because they are tight up against the cap, to say the least. But I'll just take these trades in a vacuum, and I think that's a very intriguing offer. So, Nolan, I will throw it back to you next. Give me your trade offer. Try to outdo what Luka gave me.
So right now I'm in the Denver Broncos. And I think in most scenarios, this is the team that everybody thinks is going to make that trade up. They're desperate. Drew Lock sucks. It's a mess. They need a quarterback. And if Atlanta's not willing to take one, they will for sure take that off their hands. But they're going to have to move up in order to do that. So what I'm offering to Atlanta is I kind of look back at the Colts and Jets trade when the Jets moved from 6-3 and ended up taking Sam Darnold. Obviously it didn't really work out well for them, as we know, but kind of have to look at those picks. I think it was 5 picks were given, which is pretty nuts. So I wasn't that bold. The thing is they didn't include a second first rounder. So that is what I am going to do. So I'm going to give away the 9th overall pick the 40th overall pick. So it's my second rounder, next year's first, and next year's third. So 4 picks in total, 2 1s, a 2 and a 3. The only question mark, obviously I get the number 4 overall pick, but the only question is I think Denver has a good defense, a good coach, good weapons. They just need quarterback play. So I think that could maybe, in Atlanta's case, they probably want to take which first rounders are going to be the best, right? Are going to be obviously the lowest in the draft, whereas Denver might be pretty good if they get the right quarterback situation. And that 2022 first rounder might be more mid-tier. Of course, it's still a first, but that's sort of what I was thinking. And so that is my final offer for the Denver Broncos.
Oh, it's your final. We're not even negotiating here. He just threw me his first and final offer. All right. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. I mean, it really depends on, I guess, like it would truly depend on like what quarterback they take and how they do it. Like if they took Trey Lance and they throw him out there in his first year, I don't know how successful they'll be in that first year with Trey Lance.
That's true, but I also do think the reason I would probably be giving up less, like obviously Luka gives you Stephon Gilmore, who's still a elite caliber corner. The reason I'm giving maybe a bit less, if I'm saying that, because it's more question marks with the picks, right?
Yeah.
You're selecting at 9 instead of 15.
Oh no, I just mean for the pick next year, it could actually be better than just a mid-round pick. It could still be a top 10 pick if Trey Lance struggles in his first year, or God forbid, say they don't think Trey Lance is ready, they hold him out a year and it's Drew Lock again. So then I'm looking at potentially another top 15 pick out of that. But I want to hear what Jeff has to give me.
Okay, I think obviously this doesn't typically happen, but desperate times come for desperate measures, as they say. So we are the Washington football team, which has yet to pick a name, which is completely just unbelievable. But whatever. So the Washington football team, I think it has to be 2 firsts. So we're offering you this year's first and next year's first, right? And potentially with a rookie quarterback, you never know what's going to happen, right? Potentially it could be, at the very least, middle of the table, maybe even top 10 kind of pick. I mean, I don't think that they're that talented, and this division is pretty bad. And you could either end up in the 20s, you could end up in the 10s. So realistically, that pick could be anywhere. But either way, you're still getting 2. The other thing I'm going to offer you is next year's second round pick. And we're also going to offer you, because we've been talking about pass rushers this entire time, and you guys have been desperate for one, we'll give you Montez Sweat as well on top of all that. So you kind of have secured the defense. You have another pick. So if some quarterback ends up being has a Joe Burrow type of season completely out of nowhere, you guys have 2 picks in that next, or two picks there. You also got that extra third if you want extra ammunition to move up even further if you are that bad, or wherever you guys are in the draft. So I think my offer is the best. Call me biased, but I think it sounds pretty good. What do you think?
It is a very intriguing offer. You were teasing me a little bit by saying pass rusher. I was like, oh, is he giving up the farm here? Is he giving me Chase Young to move up to number 4? No, of course not. I do like getting a player back as well. You still get a nice young player, Montez Sweat, under 25 years old. I do like that. I think that fits more than getting Stephon Gilmore would, even though Stephon Gilmore obviously is in a vacuum a better player. I think that's pretty obvious. But if we're including the cap number, then quite obviously Stephon Gilmore would not fit on the team. They'd have to move kind of heaven and earth to kind of fit him under the cap, and kind of they've done a lot as is. So I don't know how much they can do after this, but I think that might take Luka's offer out of the running, just because I don't know if we can fit Stephon Gilmore in our cap. As much as I would love to have Stephon Gilmore come in and teach AJ Terrell the way to be a good cornerback and kind of give him all the pointers that he knows, I think we might have to be passing and rejecting the Patriots offer. But I'll say this. I think the Patriots pick is probably the most secure. I don't know. I think it'll probably be anywhere from 15 to 20-ish. I think that's probably they probably have the least variance in their pick. I can't see them, at least with the Broncos. I can see a world where it could be a top 10 pick again. And with the football team, I know there's obviously a chance that if you don't finish first in that division, it's bad enough where you're probably giving me a pick that could be back up in the top 15. So I'll take the Patriots out of the running here. I like getting an extra player. But I like the potential of getting another top 10 pick next year. if I want to like it's okay. So we'll do this. I want Nolan, if you're gonna be the GM of the Broncos, say for some reason it goes, Lawrence, Wilson, Mac Jones. Who are you taking? Obviously, I don't know. Obviously, I don't know who you're like. Obviously, this shouldn't factor in too much into this wouldn't actually factor in to the Falcons' decision too much. But
I'd go Lance right away. I'm sprinkling that to the board
over Justin Fields.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Fields at 3 and Jones. Okay, yeah.
No, sorry, Mac Jones, and then you have the choice of Lance.
I'm going Justin Fields for sure, especially with those weapons. That's disgusting.
Damn it. Okay, so I don't have the chance to maybe they rest Trey Lance. Okay. And then
but I
Jeff,
could just be lying to you if I'm GM, right? I could just say, right?
That's true. Jeff, who would you take with the quarterback pick? Again, this will never actually happen in a draft, but I want to know.
I love Justin Fields. So
right. I forgot you're a Justin Fields Fields boy
for sure. Yeah, no, there'd be some tampering going on for sure if I was ever involved in a trade like that. Yeah, nobody would get near a phone for a couple months. So
would Washington do that though? Because they did just pick a recent Ohio State quarterback.
Oh my god,
they did. But I feel like Justin Fields, at least, he seems like a very hardworking, wholesome boy. I don't think he'll do anything crazy like that. Also, I think like the whole man, that was an absolute mess. But either way, I mean, personally, look at this. Like, you guys have been desperate for a pass rusher. Montez Sweat is a super talented pass rusher. Still got it, I think, at least one more year on his rookie deal, and you get that automatically. Then you get the 2 picks. I mean, okay, sure, you might be picking in the top 10 next year, but as far as we know right now, those guys aren't very good. At least right now, we don't know. But the thing is like you could potentially move it further down the line. Either way you could, right? But to me, having that top 10 pick there, it's like, what's the point? You're going to be so desperate anyway. I feel like you might as well add that. You add that sure thing. That's the one thing I definitely have over Nolan here is I'm giving you the most sure thing out of everybody. And I kind of agree with his point too. Like, their team does seems more set up to kind of explode and be a really good team, especially with Vic Fangio's defense and the offensive weapons.
Now, you're saying a sure thing with Montez Sweat. What if I were to not make that my final offer?
Oh, here we go. I knew there was something. I knew he was waiting to give me something. Let's go. I want to hear what you got.
I take back potentially maybe the 3rd rounder, and I offer you another edge rusher, Bradley Chubb.
I'm in now, and you have my interest here. You've piqued my interest a little bit now. We're getting him in there with Dean Pease, and that could be interesting. I think that might have just put it over the top. I think that might have just sold it. I get a free player that's a better value than anything I get in the 3rd round next year, but probably. I mean, I can't imagine getting a player at Bradley Chubb's level in the 3rd round next year. You know what? I think we have a deal with the Denver Broncos. Plus, I'm not sending this quarterback to the NFC. I get to send him all the way away to the NFC West, and I'll get to have to play him only once every 4 years. So, you know what? Okay. We have a deal, Denver. We absolutely have a deal.
I love it. So who would you be taking at 9 then?
Well, it depends how the board breaks out, but I would if Kyle Pitts did end up getting there, then it would be Kyle Pitts if he got past Carolina. Other than that, maybe Slater if Slater's there.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I just point out though that I personally don't think anybody through those picks would pick a quarterback. And you would, since this is pretty much over, you might as Denver's clearly got the best offer. There's a very good chance Trey Lance, if this is the way the draft falls, Trey Lance just ends up falling there anyway. So that is probably the best deal overall.
Easy money,
I think you made the terrible choice in terms of pass rushers, but
that's the thing. I still could get the chance at Trey Lance there if I really wanted to. Plus, I still think there's a good chance that Denver's not very good, even with Justin Fields. There's still that chance that he's just not very good.
All right. I like it though. Obviously
we're still in the top 10.
That's true. I was considering giving you back Drew Lock to make sure you have your future quarterback, but wasn't sure if you
I would have hung up the phone. I would have instantly given the picks. I would have instantly given number 4 to Jeff. GM Wall would have gotten the pick immediately. That would have been insulting.
Alrighty. That was fun though. That was a good time. We'll do something like that again, if we get close to it, maybe like a Detroit, right? Because Detroit's in that situation. They're just going to blow it all up, right? We already know that. Whether the Trey Lance or Justin Fields train falls past 4 and goes to that 7 range, is there a team like a New England, like a Chicago, like a Washington who wants to trade up? Might be doing something like that in the coming weeks. But that's going to do it. Cover 4 podcast. No Luca this week. Hopefully we have him back next week. We are inching closer to the draft. We'll have maybe another mock draft 2.0 coming out soon. So keep your eyes open for that, guys. And make sure to like, share, subscribe. Check out Lingo Sports for all of the best sports and NFL content. We'll see you guys soon.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Lingo Sports and Lingo News for a whole lot more just like this.